Hey everyone, how the hell are ya? This is another episode of All Effed Up with Will. I hope you are doing well. Just the beginning of another work week as I'm recording this. Nothing too exciting going on. Just trying to make it through the work week. Some days are definitely better than others. You know how they can be where you don't want to be there, or just mind numbing and soul crushing, but we gotta power through. That's what we're all about. We gotta get through the work week. We get through the day and just keep going. So, if you're anything like me, or else you would be listening to this, um, there are, we all have various types of anxieties. We deal with that, or we might have some degree of depression, or just all around bad thoughts, or just low opinion of yourself, or whatever the case is. Another one that I wanted to touch on was, the life of being a loner or dealing with that lonely feeling. I have dealt with that, obviously. But the big thing I wanted to touch on was just being a loner. I have always been a loner in some form or another. Just someone that enjoys being alone, or someone that enjoys just their time with their thoughts. Just more or less, I have been an introvert. Someone that likes to not really leave the house, especially as I've gotten older, because, there's just the sad fact that everyone gets older, everyone's got other responsibilities, and you can't just be running around doing whatever you want and, doing everything at all hours of the night. But, it's just one of the many sides of my weird personality. In some ways, it's something I took advantage of when I was younger. Because, when you're younger, before you have kids or anything like that, you just have all this time to yourself, and you don't realize how peaceful it can be. And you don't realize that, you get all this quiet time whenever you want. It's something that became comforting, because I've always spent a lot of time alone. I wasn't very social when I was younger. And, it wasn't by choice. I was that type that, unpopular doesn't even really cut it. I was one of those types where I was borderline invisible in high school, where if I were to just blink out of existence, no one outside of my, small group of friends would even notice. That's just the way it was. It's something I accepted, and I just kind of ran with it. I was always just kind of an outsider. I still am for the most part. Mostly just because as you get older, you don't really give a crap about going out and socializing as much anyways. But like I said, that lonely, unnoticed feeling, it kind of became more or less a comfort. It's, if there's no people around, there's no drama to deal with. But, that's where it can also get complicated, because you spend all this time alone. You live with these loner feelings, and, you spend all this time with yourself, and it's that alone can become kind of addicting, to where when you are trying to form relationships or whatever, it can be hard because you're so used to just being alone and doing your own thing. And what started out as being, feeling left out and everything, kind of becomes a comfort where you're perfectly fine being alone and spending all this time alone and just kind of getting used to it, being around people becomes unappealing because you are just so used to kicking back by yourself and doing your own thing. You know, and when I was younger, it was the age of instant messaging before social media really took hold. Instant messaging was the thing where you could just hang out and you could have a social life, but at a distance, where you could just chat it up with your friends all night, swapping pictures or videos or songs or whatever it was about. And just that alone was more appealing to me, anyways, to just sit in front of the computer. I basically was just a common computer nerd where I didn't have any social skills. I didn't know how to talk to people, not at that point in my life anyways. It's still a problem, obviously, but it was just more comforting to just sit in front of a computer screen all night. And during this time, it was odd, I was sitting around doing nothing half the time, but it was also during this time that I had my close friendships where I started dropping weight and actually being okay posting pictures of myself, and just the whole online facade that I was creating was coming into effect. Even after a few years of all this and my social life started to, take off more or less, that loner feeling and other feelings of not belonging, they didn't really go anywhere. I could, even as I was getting into, hanging out, being surrounded by people, I could be in a house party or just in a big group hanging out, and I always found myself retreating to a corner of the room or wherever I was and just kind of hanging out by myself, just because that's where I found peace and comfort. And just sometimes you just didn't want to be around certain people just because the way they were acting or whatever. And like I said earlier, that feeling of being a loner, and where those loner feelings could evolve into having depressing feelings and depressing thoughts, where like I said, you just wanted to be alone. You didn't want to be around people for any reason other than just because you wanted to be alone. And that habit for me was, I still haven't really broken it. There's plenty of times that I still want to be alone. I want my quiet time where I can just sit back and, just hang out in the quiet, just be by myself. And that is a feeling that I really got addicted to, and it has stunted some of my social skills, especially as I've gotten older, because I don't have the group of friends that I had. I don't have these social outlets that I had. So now I've just kind of reverted to my natural state where I just don't want to be around people. I want to be at home. That's kind of common, though, for someone in the 30s, too, where you kind of wore yourself out in your 20s, and now you got kids, you got to stay home, you try to get all the rest you can, but also it's just it's a byproduct of when I was younger. And, I'm still a loner, at heart for the most part. I just can't be around people for too long. It kind of sets certain aspects of my personality off where I just got to get out. Or if I'm already in a situation, I will definitely do things to avoid social interactions and just do anything I can to, if I have to talk to someone or whatever, do what I can to make it as painless as possible, because some social situations, they're just so awkward that you might end up making an ass of yourself, or you just might have some completely off the wall reaction to being uncomfortable. And I was that guy even when I was at the peak of my social life, where I could be at a party or something and I suddenly decide I don't want to be there anymore, and I would just up and disappear, and I would have people text me or whatever, be like, "Where you at?" Be like, "I'm already at home, man." It's like I hit that point of the night where I just had to get out, and I had to come home to my quiet room where I just don't want to be around people. I am tapped out for the night. And, that kind of became my thing, where I would go to parties, I would go to the bars, and people just knew if I was just suddenly gone, they knew I went home. But I would have those people that would still care enough at least to call or text me like, hey, did you make it home okay? Well, yeah, I made it home all right. So that was just my thing there for a while. But like I said, that's just a byproduct of the addicting loner feeling, the addiction to the quiet life that I was more or less, I guess, forced into when I was younger, because I did not have the social skills to get out and meet people when I was in high school. It wasn't until I met a group of friends that I had for a short time that I was pushed into those situations, but I was still an introvert at heart, where it was very difficult for me to get out and meet people, to get out and talk to girls, or just be social with people in general, just because of this addiction that I had, where I was perfectly fine, perfectly content, just being alone in the dark, just sitting there, reveling in the fucking quiet and the just complete lack of responsibility being in a social situation. And like I said before, that has had some effect on my ability to have any kind of friendships or professional relationships as I've gotten older, because I've just reverted back to that state of where I just feel completely out of place in a lot of settings where, it's just very difficult for me to have something to talk about with someone, to form any kind of friendship or professional relationship or whatever the case may be, where it's a pain in the ass. I just more or less retreat into myself, where I would rather just not talk to somebody, or just rather be known as the quiet one rather than let them even have a chance to know me. I mean, I'm at a job to do my job, not really make friends. That's just how I kind of look at it now. And I still have a handful of friends from my younger days, but like I said, as you get older, your responsibilities change, where you can't just drop something at a moment's notice and go spend time with someone. You usually, where the case is, where you are now dedicated to being at home, where you have other responsibilities. And that's normal. That's the typical thing once you settle down and everything. Of course, there is a downside to having this more or less a personality flaw, where you're reserved and you're quiet. People think of you, especially in a professional setting, as not being engaged or not being interested or even wanting to be there, which, some cases might be true for someone, but, some cases we just can't fucking help it, where we just can't bring ourselves to be outspoken in a room full of people that we're not comfortable with. And so you just get looked at as not even wanting to be there. And it's not the fucking case. You have anxieties, and they are a pain in the ass, and they come in all shapes and forms, and you really can't do anything about it except just work on it. And like I said, there's other options out there which I really need to explore, probably for my own sake. But there's definitely a downside to the loner feeling, or the addiction to the loner feeling, or the addiction to wanting to be in a quiet room and not have to deal with anyone, just because it doesn't come with those complications of being where you're accused of being non-social. But that's just the way some of us are, and we can't fucking help it. And the absolute worst thing someone could do to someone that has those feelings or is in that situation, to where that person might get the courage to stand up and give an opinion or just have an idea, and you get weird looks for it, or they kind of brush it off. It's like, that's not fucking helping anyone, man. It's that's why that person is like that, why they're just be like, whatever, just not having really much of a interesting view on it, or they just don't care, because there's been situations where they might have an idea or something that they think is good, and then they speak it up, and you get looks or you get comments, and so they go back to thinking, well, fuck it, I'm just not going to say anything because these people don't care anyways. They're just going to shit all over it and just continue treating you like you don't matter or your opinions don't matter. So we just revert to our natural little introverted state where you just kind of just give in and go back to being the quiet one, because there's no complications, like I said, and there's no looks or comments coming at you for anything you might say or think. If you can't tell, I have had a lot of experience with this, is why when I've been in certain professional settings or just a random job where I'm surrounded by people that are just talking or opening their mouths or whatever else at a constant rate, and they just are those types that just have to give their opinion, or they have to have a comment for every little thing you say. So that's another reason you're just like, well, I'm just gonna keep to myself. And that's been the situation for a couple of jobs that I've had, where people just, they can't help but run their mouth. And so I just retreated into myself and did my own thing. I did my job and I went home. I didn't try to be these people's friends or hang out with them outside of work or anything like that, because you never know what they're going to say. And when you have your guard up in the first place, you just don't want to fucking hear it. You don't want to have a reason to keep your guard up, other than the fact that you just want to anyways, because you never know what these people are going to say. You never know what they're going to do. So it's just a constant battle of, well, maybe I should try to talk to these people or be more open, but then they just give you a reason not to be. In those types of situations, they're not going to help anybody. And unfortunately, no matter where you go, in most cases, you're going to be dealing with those type of people that just cannot help themselves. They have to give you their opinion. They have to have some comment about anything you say. So it makes it very difficult for you to come out of your shell and, not keep to yourself, where it's just something that's hard to deal with. Just like everything else when you're dealing with anxieties or overanalyzing a situation. Well, guys, I think you've heard me ramble on enough for the night. I think I'm going to wrap it up, but I have a few things. If you enjoy the show, or like I try to say in every closing of of this little shit show, I just hope you get something out of these stories, and I hope you find maybe a little inspiration to get past your anxieties, or just find some kind of way to deal with them. I know we all have our troubles, and everyone's situation is different, but I just want everyone to get the message about mental health out there, that it's a big deal, where as before, people wouldn't want to talk about it, or it wasn't considered anything important, but that's not the case. So just help me spread this message. Share it on your Facebook, share it on any social media that you use. Just push it out there. I want people to hear this. I want this to become a thing. And I just wanted to say that I also just got a Twitter for this podcast. It's the ALLeffedUP podcast. It's ALLeffedUP pod is where it is on Twitter, what the address or whatever is for it. So look me up. I'm just starting it. Just trying to, like I said, get the message out there. So that'll do it. I just hope everyone has a good day, good night, good whatever. Look for me on Spotify, Amazon, Google, other little podcast streaming out there. And just give me a quick listen. I'm always open to any kind of criticism, constructive or otherwise. Like I said, if you've got ideas or you've got questions or anything, just reach out to me on that Twitter. I will, I'll probably check it every day just because I have nothing else better to do. But yeah, just give me a holler and help me make this show better. Help me get the message out there for people. Because everyone, like I said, everyone's got something to deal with, and sometimes it helps just to hear someone more or less bitch or talk about the same shit that they're going through. So anyways, guys, thank you. I hope you enjoyed listening, because I know there's lots of options out there. And take care.